things that you can do with your students. So I'm going to start with Explain Everything. Explain Everything is basically an interactive whiteboard, but it's an interactive whiteboard that you have on you at all times. Turns, as long as you've got a projector in your classroom, you can link your iPad to the projector, and all of a sudden you've got an interactive whiteboard in your classroom. So if I just go to New Project and Blank Project, you can see that that's your basic setup, very similar to how an interactive whiteboard might look, but for a lot less the price. How do I use this in the classroom? I can record everything that I'm doing, so you can see down the bottom of the device there's a red circle. If I click on that, everything that I then do on the whiteboard is recorded. That's really useful, one for me storing things that I might have done, but also to share that with students. The one beauty of the iPad is that you can store everything and give it to the students in a variety of sources so that they can review that information at another time. So where can I start on here? All the tools down the side, fairly self-explanatory. So I've got a writing tool. I can write directly onto the screen. I've got a tool which allows me to use it as a laser pointer. So if I wanted to point something in particular out that the students were doing, a range of tools in terms of pointing directions, shapes, colors, change lots of different things in there. A text tool, so I can type straight into the work and move that around, go wherever it might need to go. So yeah, so it as a whiteboard, it's something I can take with me. But the added benefit of that is that I can then upload pictures, and I might want to look at this picture in a little bit more detail. So here's a picture of someone shooting in basketball. I'm sure we all know who the person is. And I can just simply annotate directly over that. So I can just look at, if I get a better color so that you can see it. I can look at, okay, see the arm is nice and straight there. He's got a bent arm here. You know, he appears to be looking directly towards the basket. His hands are placed behind the ball. It gives you a really, really powerful tool to annotate directly onto work. Again, students seem to really enjoy this. It's a tool that you can pass out to students and get them to annotate over the top of. As well as pictures, you can also open websites. So by typing in here, the website for BBC Sport. So that loads up, and again, I can annotate directly over this. So really, really useful for using in a BTEC class or a GCSE class, where you can get students, or you can highlight specific things to the students. So I can highlight something over here, you know, draw people's attention to things within the work. So if I get back up my arrow tool, I can, you know, specify that this is a good area that I think we should be looking at. So I just had a question there from Matt. Do you need an adapter to connect to the projector, or is this a wireless option? Okay, the cheap option is to go for a connector. They range in price, depends on whether you get the Apple specific connector. It's very similar to how you would plug it into your computer. One end just goes into the bottom of your iPad, the same as your charger does. The other end is a VGA connector, and that can just plug straight into the back of your projector, and then you can see exactly what's on your screen. The slightly more expensive option, and it is only slightly more expensive, is to use something called Apple TV. And Apple TV just links directly to your projector. If you've got modern projectors, they are HDMI supported. It just plugs straight into it, and you do it over the Wi-Fi. That's really useful. What I'm currently using at the moment is as Lee's just put on there, is the Reflection app. Now, Reflection app isn't very expensive. It just downloads onto your computer, and it allows you to just mirror the iPad screen exactly as you can see I'm doing now. It's just on my computer screen, and I'm wirelessly connected to that via my device. So hopefully that's answered that. So back to the use of the app then. Hopefully you can see it's quite useful in terms of just drawing attention to the work that students might be doing. And again, because you can record all of this and share this with students at a later date. Really, really useful tool, certainly for GCSE and BTEC. If students didn't focus in on conversation, you can record that conversation via this and share it with them at another time. You can prepare lessons in advance, highlighting specific things that you want them to look at. I've used it to just do brainstorming. So if I put a new sheet on here, I might just simply say to the students, okay, we're going to look at drugs in sport today. And instead of doing the brainstorm on the whiteboard and it be lost because I'm going to wipe it off after 2 minutes because I need to use the whiteboard for something else, I record everything the students are talking about on this. So they might come up and say, oh, Lance Armstrong is in the news, and they also know about different types of drugs. So you've got your recreational drugs, and then they might tell you something else, and it can build up a really, really big picture about all of these things, but record their voices discussing it. Now, this sounds like a really, really simple thing, but in practice with my students, what I don't want them to do is spend half an hour writing this down off the board, because that's not developing their understanding of the work. What's going to develop their understanding of the work is them engaging in the conversation. So if you've got students which might have literacy issues and take their time writing and don't really focus on the conversation that's going on, all they're going away with is a list of words. That's all they take with them. If you record that conversation and share that with the students afterwards, what they're taking away is everything that you potentially want them to write down, but also everybody in that classroom's conversation about all of those different issues. So they're much more engaged in the lesson and less likely to just sit there and write down whatever you've written off the screen. It does make a huge difference, and it is really, really simple to do. From this point here, if I had recorded things, you have these options down the bottom to the right. You can save it as a picture. So I can save that into my photo roll. I can then email that to people. But again, that's just a still image. Still very useful, but it is just a still image. Or I can do exactly the same thing as a movie. So if I had been recording what I was doing on the screen now, I can export that to the photo roll, stick it on YouTube, send it directly as an email, or use one of the many options that you've got there to export that out